Ready to go.
Okay. Good morning, everybody, and welcome back. Today we're working on this little Poulan P3816 chainsaw. Now, I know nothing about its background, and the guy who gave it to me also knows nothing about its background, so it's going to be pretty fun on this one. So let's get started. Let's get this thing running. Usually when I work on one of these, I know something about it. At least the original owner would tell me something about it. But this time, the original owner got this when he was cleaning out a garage. Somebody else's garage, a rental property, and it was left behind. And he said he tried to start it and he pulled it a few times and it almost runs. So that's promising. So let's see what we've got going here. Ah, look at that. First thing I see. There we go. Can you see this? First thing I see is the linkage is missing on the carburetor. This particular linkage, the way this works is this swings back when you hit the accelerator and it turns a lever here, which would open the top throttle. This is one of those, it's a pretty common carburetor around here. It's a 2-barrel carburetor and it works just like an old Rochester carburetor would or an old Holley carburetor, where the primaries cover 2/3 of the travel and then the last third opens up the back barrels, or in this case, the top barrel. So we're going to need a carburetor. Okay, let's grab our handy 5/16 and get this carburetor off. Whoop. Okay, we've also got a Torx up here. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. Okay, let's scoop these up and put the nuts off to the side. Now when you replace the carburetor on one of these, you want to take the old carburetor off. In this case, the old carburetor doesn't look all that old. It definitely is damaged. And I look here and I see the fuel line's also broken. So anyway, as I was saying, you want to take the carburetor off, and then the carburetor linkage pops off super easy. You floor it and it slides right out. You take lots of pictures right here because you can see how this linkage spins on. That won't be real obvious later. So we're going to need a carburetor and we're going to need fuel lines at very least for this bad boy. There we go. Okay, now we're going to go on Amazon and find ourselves a carburetor. And you can see I've already done a search for it. This is our Poulan 3816 carburetor. But now you want to pay attention. This is like, now I'm not fond of the HIPAAs. So let's go past, oh good, look. First one that's not a HIPAA, that's probably the carburetor we need. But let's go down one and let's look at this one. And you can see everything looks very familiar compared to this one. The linkage is correct and all that. But if you look up here, right here, you can see it's got a different return. See if we can get it from the side. Yeah, you can see the retainer clip there, that little wire right there. That will be the death of you, because what will happen is that is not on this particular chainsaw and it'll hit the rubber pipe, or I'm sorry, the rubber bushing on the back of it. So we're going to go back and look at this one. And you can see this is exactly what we described. This little arm goes back, or is it? This little arm goes back and it hits right here and it hits this to open the second barrel. This is the one we want. So we're going to go ahead and add it to our cart and order it. And we'll see you in the morning. Okay. And on this one over here, I'm going to cut her short. We're going to cut her short enough where we can work with it, but long enough where it's not obnoxious. I'll put the long one here. You want to make sure that the fuel line you choose, it's nice and snug on all your connectors. And now the other side, which is the vacuum side of this, will go to the return side of the carburetor. Since this fuel line's a mile long, let's go right about here. And that's that. Now we'll put it back in place and put the side cover back on. And that's done and done. There we go. If this side cover ever hangs up while you're doing it, do this. See it just click back into place? Because they will hang up all over the place. You got the little pawls inside that attach to this, and then activate the flywheel to start it. Okay. So now our carb kit included quite a few parts that we're going to like, and one that we don't. These little spark plugs that come with it, I've tried to use them quite a few times, and you might get lucky occasionally, but as a rule, just go buy yourself a little champion plug to replace it. Now, let's see what we got. We've got the infamous torch plug in it right now, which I do believe is the same plug as this, just with a different sticker on it. Now we're not going to test the spark plug, we're going to automatically replace it. And we're going to use the 7 Series Champion, which is an 859 Champion RCJ7Y. Make sure when you put it on, snug it nice and tight, but don't try to set any records because it is aluminum head. You don't want to tear the head up. So now we've got our incoming fuel and our outgoing fuel to our purge bulb. So let's get our carburetor on. Let's see what our gasket looks like. Our gasket's in pretty good shape. Now you want to make sure that your holes all line up correctly, which they do in this case. We'll slide our carburetor on loosely. And now we'll do our fuel lines. Now it's pretty easy to get these guys backwards, so don't cut them until you've tested it. So there you go, now our fuel lines are in place. We're going to test the purge bulb to make sure that the fuel is flowing the correct direction before we put the rest of it back together, because we're almost done here. Let's toss our filter on and put some gas in it. And because people hold chainsaws like this all the time, you want to make sure that your fuel filter goes to the far end of the tank. And if you look inside, I don't know if you can see it, but it's at the far corner in the back. Okay, with that done, let's get it all back together. The gasket's good, carburetor's good. Now, first thing we're going to do is get the carburetor on. We're not going to tighten anything quite yet. We're going to make sure we don't bind up on any fuel lines along the way. Make sure she fits correctly, which it does. Now we're going to do the linkage, because you want a little bit of room on the carburetor while you do it. So put it back on the way it was before. And we're going to use this one to press the gas. So we're using the linkage to press the accelerator down and just sliding it back in place, and you're done. Pretty cool. Now it's working the way it's supposed to. So the only thing we've got left is put the choke lever back in place and make sure it works correctly. Come on, choke lever. There you go. So now we'll pull it out and make sure that it closes when we hit the gas. And it does. Looks good, looks good. So let's bolt her all back together. Okay, and since this is a brand new carburetor, it's probably going to need a little adjustment before she runs well. But let's put her on the floor Let's see what we've got. Okay, now we're idling. Let's give it some gas on the high side because we know it's stalled. Huh. Let's give it one pull with full choke to give it a little bit more gas. Now we're going to adjust the low to get the smoothest idle. Okay, when we turn the choke all the way off, she stalled. So we're going to turn the idle up and see what we've got. You got to be ready for quite a bit of tinkering like this when you run one of these right out of the box. It's entirely possible the idle is set insanely low. See, it's still idling low even though we turned it up. Okay, now we're going to adjust the low side, because the high side sounds pretty good. And we're just doing all this by ear. Now we'll turn the idle back down. We're turning the idle down until the chain stops spinning. Now she sounds pretty good, so the chain is spinning freely. That means our clutch is probably sticking a little bit. But she sounds really nice. And it took a lot of tinkering to get this to sound this way, even though it's a new carburetor. So now that she's warm, let's see if she'll first pull for us. Okay, second pull, I'll take that. So she sounds pretty good. You see, I made the mistake on that one. I forgot to turn the idle up before I started trying to start it. You always turn the idle up most of the way in and then get her started and then back the idle out and adjust the low side until she's idling correctly and then work on the high side. So all you new people out there, if you made it this far, you might as well subscribe. It's free and it really is what we work for. So next up is a little go-kart that you're going to love. It's pretty cool and it's red. So thanks for watching and we'll see you next time.